Welcome to Batch and Scale, the Healthy Food Financing Podcast, brought to you by Eats Place. This podcast explores the dollars and cents behind our food. I'm your host, Katie Chang, and in this series, we're diving into the economics of healthy food, looking at its journey from harvest to home and all the points in between. In this second episode, we're following the journey of food entrepreneurship, from kitchen table to great big brand. We're celebrating the innovators and the deeply passionate people who are shaping the future of food. From kitchen table startups to up-and-coming brands, the journey of a food entrepreneur is a fascinating mix of creativity, perseverance, financial savvy, and even luck. We'll uncover what it takes to build a successful food business in today's tough but dynamic market. We'll hear from Amir Mostafavi, the visionary behind South Block, a company that has revolutionized healthy smoothies. He'll share his personal story, his branding secrets, and the challenges he faced along the way. But it's not just about having a great idea. You know that feeling when you discover a new, delicious, and genuinely good for you snack? Or you hear about a startup trying to revolutionize how we eat? Behind every one of those exciting new ventures, there's a story of passion, fortitude, and often a significant financial hurdle. We'll talk to Eric Lin and Jose Vargas from the Latino Economic Development Center, an organization that coaches food startups to launch and grow. They'll give us the inside scoop on the financial realities of this industry, from securing funding to scaling for success. And we'll continue to follow Dreaming Out Loud's inspiring story unfolding in the Anacostia neighborhood of Washington, D.C., where a community is taking its own entrepreneurial path to address food access challenges by building a grocery store. Their journey is about the power of vision and determination, reminding us that food entrepreneurship can be a force for positive change as we check in on their dream program that accelerates the next generation of food retail stars. Get ready to be inspired and informed as we dive into the world of food entrepreneurship. Let's dig in. And I'm with Amir Mostafavi, the owner and founder and CEO of South Block. We're going to talk with him because he's an amazing food entrepreneur and learn more about his experience raising capital. Tell us a little bit about South Block. Take us back to the beginning. What inspired you to start it, for your personal passion that drove you to take this incredible leap into juices and healthy food?
I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, and I thought that when I grew up, I did not want to have my own business because I saw how hard my dad worked. But then when I got out into the real world after college, I realized that maybe he wasn't so nuts because I realized I'd rather be busy than bored. So started thinking about business ideas and had an opportunity to open a juice bar on campus at George Washington University in the gym on campus. I had no idea what I was doing. And I always joke with people that's where I got my MBA and learned business because it really was a good opportunity to figure things out before starting South Block in 2011 in Arlington.
So, how did you develop South Block's identity, and what story are you trying to tell with it?
When it was time to open South Block, I knew that if I served an awesome product, which I knew I had because at GW we had developed a really strong following, not just from the students, but people who lived in the community who heard about us. So I knew that if we had an awesome product there and got involved with the community and gave people a great experience, that people would find us back there on the South Block. And that's what we called it. That's why I decided to call it was South Block, because I wanted the name to represent who we were at the heart of the business, what our mission was, around building community, not around the product. Because for me, the product is almost the easy part, even though I think we have the best quality smoothies and acai bowls in the market. The hard part is building an awesome culture and being a part of the community. And that's something you have to consistently strive for to do better. So I wanted the business to be all about building community. So we were on the South Block of the building. That's where the name came from, and it represents the idea behind our mission too, which is to help make people feel awesome one block at a time. So right now we have 20 locations in the DMV, and we just announced yesterday that we are going to Charlotte, North Carolina. So that'll be our first city outside of the DMV. So we're super excited about that. And it really has been an organic community effort. I built the business around what our customers have told us they want. Not forget where we came from, not forget our roots, not forget what makes South Block special, and make sure we stick to that. Make sure we don't sacrifice the quality of product, the connection to our community, our focus on people and leadership development and our team. And I think a lot of brands make the mistake of, as they scale, losing sight of those core things that really make your brand valuable. And they just focus on scale for the sake of scale. And then sooner or later, it starts deteriorating.
So you saw the opportunity and listened to your customers. How has that resonated with the community?
Leading with the philosophy people over profits. That's always been how I think about business. I think too many people think about profits first and make decisions based off profit, and then that hurts your culture and your people experience. And part of South Block is Fruitful Planet. So this is a nonprofit organization that I created back in 2019. It's in honor of my mom who passed away in 2019. And I always describe her as the most fruitful person that I knew. And she was always like very giving of herself and giving of to the community. So there was a time, in my life when we were growing up, when my dad, working as a professor in Iran, but sent to Kent State University to get his PhD, and lost all of his funding because the war started in Iran. So now my mom and dad are married with 4 young kids in Ohio, and he had no funding, no job, and he had to start from scratch. So, we were able to get through that, one, because my dad didn't give up and did whatever he could to end up still getting his PhD. And also we needed assistance at that time. We had food stamps, and it was always important to my dad that no matter what we were going through, that we had fruits and vegetables to eat. So I always remember that. And so part of South Block, I wanted to make sure, we were serving the entire community, not just people that could afford to eat at South Block. So Fruitful Planet, I started for that mission. And the way it works is anytime you buy something at South Block, a portion of that goes to Fruitful Planet. And then we use 100% of those funds to buy fruits and vegetables for people in need throughout our community. So we partner with places like Arlington Food Assistance Center and DC Central Kitchen to make sure that they have fresh fruits and vegetables. That's one of our core values: is small acts can have big impacts. And that's what we're doing with Fruitful Planet. We've donated over 70,000 pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables since we started it.
It is fantastic to hear about all this incredible growth that South Block is going through and the impact you're making in all your communities. If we take a step back to look at this journey to scale, could you walk us through this evolving capital raising strategy? What were like the key funding stages you went through, maybe with friends and family and angel investors when you started up, and then going to venture capital or other larger investors as you grew?
So I was always very timid around private equity and raising money for the company. So I used my own funds. First South Block I opened, it was line of credit against my condo, built the counters myself, so just try not to be wasteful with money. I used my own money, sold stocks, maxed out credit cards, whatever I could do. So, then I was fortunate, like as we grew, to have opportunities to open South Blocks in locations that didn't cost a lot of cash, either built out spaces that I converted pretty cheap, or landlords that wanted us in their building and were willing to invest in the build out for us. So that was a really good way to kind of build a foundation to build some cash flow that let us open more stores. Then I was able to, through building up that cash flow, get a line of credit through a bank. So we went to Eagle Bank, got a line of credit that was really helpful, that I could draw against when we were opening a new block. Still didn't sell any equity at this point. My brother invested and bought some equity, so that was a little bit of friends and family. We were able to get from 3 locations to 15 before I went to private equity. I didn't even need private equity. That's another piece of advice I would give people: is don't go after private equity when you need it. Like, that's a bad time to go for private equity, because your worth is going to be low. You need to have strong cash flow, strong economics when you're going for private equity. So the reason why I went, I knew that we had something special. I knew we had a brand that was connecting with the community. My number one priority was finding a private equity partner who aligned with my values and my way of thinking about business strategy and growth. Private equity can hurt you, and you've seen this a lot with businesses, right? Finding a partner that does not align with your way of thinking, that forces growth on your brand, that is unhealthy for culture, unhealthy for people, quality of product. So we put together an investment deck and sent it out, and met with a lot of people and got several offers. And one of the offers I got was from my dream, what I thought was my dream private equity partner, who I had known about before when we went to market, and I went to their conference. They're called Savory Fund. They're based out of Salt Lake City, and they have an annual conference called Restaurantology. And it didn't hurt that we did have an amazing product and culture, and we had great numbers. Even though my philosophy is people over profits, I always say that to people, that that's what's going to make you profitable, is leading with that way of thinking. So we had strong economics, and we ended up, yeah, getting an offer from them, and ended up closing a deal with them.
And I think you have a really good point about not reaching out for private equity when you need it, because you come at a point of much more leverage and better negotiation when you don't actually need them, but you want them as a strategic partner. And it's not just about getting the funds, right? Like securing the funds is one thing, but actually finding the right strategic financial partner that's truly aligned with your goals, your mission, your vision for how you want to treat people and how you want to have a healthier food future.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I mean, yeah, and by the way, Savory was not the highest offer. Like, don't always go after the highest offer, the biggest money, right? Go for the best partner. And I think in the long run, that's going to be more financial success for everybody. I think one of the things I did too that I would definitely recommend to young entrepreneurs is bring your team along for the journey. Entrepreneurship can be a lonely game to be in. So bringing your team along to be people that you can bounce ideas off, have conversation with. I took it a step further, and even I started a profit sharing program several years back with my team. Every quarter, they got a piece of the profits from the company. So the more blocks we were opening, the more everyone was making, and the more excited everyone was. So it wasn't like, oh, good for Amir, he's opening all these blocks, and now it means more work for me. So there was no, we were all winning together, right? If there was a upside, then they would get a share of that. As many people caring about your business and thinking about the business the way you do as possible. So only strengthens your operation, that only strengthens your business.
That's amazing. That's a win win for everyone. Now that you're focused on the brand and marketing, we have to talk about social media. How important has that been in
Mm.
building your brand and reaching your community, your customers?
I mean, I credit Instagram with helping me put acai on the map, because I started acai. We were the first on the East Coast to sell acai.
What is that?
And
How do you pronounce that?
exactly, I learned about acai 20 years ago in 2005. This surfer dude came in my GW shop, and he had a cooler with acai in it, and he asked me if he could make me an acai bowl. I had no idea what he was talking about. I hadn't heard of it. And I tried it after he made it, and I just fell in love with it. When I opened South Block in Clarendon, I decided to make half the menu acai because I just wanted to share it. Also, Instagram was starting to pop off, right? So we created an Instagram account, and I think when people visually saw what the acai bowls looked like, then they got it, right? And they wanted to try it. We were lucky that influencers would just organically and naturally want to share acai bowls from South Block on their feeds, right?
That's really great practical marketing insights of trying to explain your brand, your product to people who are not familiar with acai or these other types of very trend forward, healthful foods.
I know a lot of people, even in the beginning, like I kept hearing, well, oh, but isn't it just a trend? Isn't it just a trend? I say, well, that's what I'm in the trend business. Like, even I remember how this has evolved over the years. When I first started, there was no acai, there was no green smoothies. No one was putting kale and spinach in smoothies. Trying new things, and testing things with LTOs and getting customer feedback, seeing what sticks is really what worked for us. Again, it's the community informing what they want, informing us to what they want, and what's important to them, and that's kind of the direction we go. I'm very in tune with customer feedback even to this day. Like, I pay attention to every all the feedback that we get. I think one of the keys to growing a business is to always be prepared to adapt and pivot. And you have to do that by really staying in tune with what your customers and what your team are telling you. I haven't sacrificed the quality or the process of making our product since day one. It's still made, our acai is made the same way it was since that surfer dude showed me how to make it. It's a labor intensive product process because we're taking fair trade organic acai, we're putting in a blender, we're blending it to order. We're not going to sacrifice the quality of the product for speed. Instead, we're going to figure out faster systems. So I take a lot of pride. You can see, like, I take a lot of pride in the quality of our product because I want to. I take it personal, and I want to personally be proud about what we're selling.
I love it. Block by block, you're nourishing and sustaining your community with real food. That's very important.
hmm
So, in addition to customer feedback, adapt and pivot, what advice would you give all the aspiring food entrepreneurs that are just starting out and listening to you?
Yeah, I'll say, I'll give you like a pivotal moment in lesson for me in building the brand. After we opened seven, like I look back and I said, we could be doing better. I'm not 100% proud of where we are as a brand right now, the experience that we're giving, not only the community, but the team. I took a personal challenge to myself that I wanted to build a company that had an amazing company culture. At that moment, my only focus was on people and culture. And I started reading leadership development books and culture books. Our whole momentum changed at that point, and our whole focus as a team shifted to just focusing on how we can provide better leadership training. That's what I tell people today is like, we are a leadership development company disguised as a smoothie shop. Our whole focus is on people development. That's what it motivates me to this day is that we can provide leadership development skills, careers for people as a juice bar, as a smoothie shop. And people don't think of a smoothie shop as a place where you can develop leadership skills and career opportunities. But that's what I'm most proud about is that we're doing that. My advice to young entrepreneurs is, well, for one, just get started. You don't have to have it all figured out. Nobody has it all figured out. We still don't have it all figured out. And I talk to people, some of the largest companies, they don't have it all figured out. And so just knowing that not no one has it all figured out. But the key is get started, but then having enough awareness to be able to adapt and pivot and make changes to your business. If you're able to do that and not give up along the way, then you'll end up succeeding. But if you don't make the right changes, if you're not aware enough of what your blind spots are, what your weaknesses are, and you're not making the changes along the way, then it will catch up to you and your business will suffer. So just get started, but always have your finger on the pulse of where your problem areas are and move quickly to make those adjustments in your business.
I love that. I am really into actionable advice and bullet point list things to do, and that is great. You really can never go wrong with investing in people.
Earning trust whenever you can with your team it pays off every time.
It really does. Thank you. We've heard Amir Mostafavi's journey as a food entrepreneur from ideation to scaling South Block. Thank you so much, Amir. How might our listeners find out more about you and South Block?
Well, Instagram is great at South Block. Is still like the best place to find out about us, or our website, southblock.com.
We heard from Amir from South Block, who shared his journey of revolutionizing acai bowls and healthy smoothies and juices. As you know, it's not just about what's in the bowl, it's about the business behind it. Now, let's turn to Eric Lynn and Jose Vargas from the Latino Economic Development Center, an organization that coaches food startups from launch to growth. They'll give us the inside scoop on the financial realities of this industry, from startup funds to long-term profitability. We're talking to the Latino Economic Development Center's Eric Lynn, Director of Lending, and Jose Vargas from LEDC Small Business Development and Lending. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Nice
It's
to
great
be
to be
here.
here.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. I think many of our listeners are fascinated by the idea of a food startup. It sounds exciting, but also incredibly daunting, I would think. Could
Mhm.
you please kick us off by telling us a little bit about the Latino Economic Development Center and what exactly is your unique role in supporting these brave new food entrepreneurs?
Sure. The Latino Economic Development Center, LEDC, is a CDFI, Community Development Financial Institutions. And basically, we're around to provide services, funding, support for entrepreneurs who are just, a lot of the time, they're just unable to get the type of support they need from traditional funders and banks. And so we're here to really support that journey and try to make their businesses the successes they really dream for.
So our role is really to help low to moderate income people access housing resources to buy their first home, access resources to start their business, both technical assistance and capital. But we also have a financial empowerment center that teaches them about personal finance. Our objective is to help people thrive and have access to resources in their community to build a business or to buy a home and to keep a home.
That's a really powerful mission, and I think it really highlights the dedication you all have behind LEDC. We know that starting any business is tough, but food in particular has its own set of complexities. It's super tough. And as you see it from working with so many of these innovative food companies, what are the key challenges they face once they decide to take that leap and start up?
I'll take that. So we've been running a food venture initiative since 2022. We have an incubator and an accelerator. And so what we've learned from those experiences is the following. Lots of people have an idea that they want to start a business because they can cook. However, they don't know about all the other aspects that go into managing a business, like marketing, like finance, like keeping track of your own books, like opening up a bank account, or all of the steps to formalize this business registration, signing up with the IRS, the Office of Tax and Revenue, getting a food protection manager certificate, with getting an insurance, having access to a commercial kitchen so that you can have it inspected and so you can get a caterer's license or a deli license. So all of those aspects of licensing, but we help in that aspect with one-to-one coaching, and we have cohorts like the Food Venture Incubator to specifically train people in those areas.
For those who don't know, what is an incubator? What's an accelerator?
An incubator is for people who are at the idea stage or early startup stage of their food business. We help them put together their menu. We help them with their pricing. All of those early stage things, we help them understand where they can register to buy their food once they formalize their business. And we help them build their business from an idea to an actual startup. An accelerator is businesses that are maybe at late stage startup who are at the growth stage, and we're helping them grow, expand their business, expand their market, develop new lines of business, and access capital.
I just also add that food ventures in general are also often seen as just being a little riskier by a lot of folks, and so that perception also makes it hard for folks to get financial resources to help them start their businesses. Our track record and our history has shown we do a lot of deals and we provide a lot of financing for businesses in the restaurant or food service space and grocers, and they just don't seem to have been any riskier than any other type of business. I think that there are some inherent risks to that industry, but there are also a bunch of different ways that we can look at a business and understand how prepared an entrepreneur is and how well formed their ideas and their plans are to be able to still go in and support that business.
Yeah, you brought up some really good points when you're talking about how to get a product from concept to shelf, the early stages and the risks. When you're underwriting, what things are you looking at in particular?
So, I mean, for existing businesses, if you have been operating and you have some history, then we are looking at things like how's business gone for you? Are you making enough money to cover your costs? Ultimately, the reason why people form businesses, you form a business in an industry or in a specific avenue because of your passion and because of your interests, but you form it as a business because you're trying to make money. You're trying to make it financially sustainable. So we do look at cash flow a lot, and we look at asset bases. What we don't look at is credit score. That's one thing that we don't look at as a determinant of whether or not we make a loan. We're going to look at things like how have you been at paying your bills? And we will look at things that are seen in a credit report, but not at the score itself, because that's just much too one dimensional, we find. And it doesn't paint a full enough picture of what an entrepreneur really, who they are, and the values or the stories that they embody.
That's a really good point. And to slice this cake into more, even more slices, it's not just about any food businesses, right? It's often about healthy food, something that's a positive for the community. So, from your experience, what are the biggest obstacles for healthy food businesses that they encounter when they're trying to secure financing? And do they have these unique challenges that they face compared to other, maybe more traditional food businesses?
I think healthy food ventures are a little bit trickier because often what we'll see in the applications and what we see in the plans is that there's a lot of intangible inherent value that's being placed on the health benefits themselves. And I do think that the market does allow for some premium pricing or some extra to be imbued into the way that you form a business around healthy food. But ultimately, there's some additional costs in how you would run something to make sure that your offerings are healthier that aren't really respected in the same way through your ability to price in the market. And so that is a challenge that, we really need to work with entrepreneurs to see through and get past. And that might look like searching for partnerships and other more creative forms of revenue, whether that's maybe a grant, whether that's support from local or state governments, partnerships with perhaps nonprofits for product development or for marketing, partnerships with universities for interns or for different aspects. So there is some elements of partnership, collaboration, and community in trying to get some of that value to become a little bit more tangibly realized. But I think also it's just how an entrepreneur is able to connect with their community. And that's true of any entrepreneur, right? If you find the community that really passionately embraces what you're doing and putting out into the world, then I think that covers for a lot of other things.
What Eric is alluding to is the challenge of finding your market for healthy food. So oftentimes in food deserts and in underserved communities, entrepreneurs want to come in with healthy food options, but the level of awareness about those options are not often the larger chunk of that market. So not only do they have to go in there and start a business, but they also have to educate the population that they want to serve. So that's a bit of an uphill challenge. Of course, they can find their tribe members, the healthy food people, and that's the challenge to build that community and find that community because there are always people everywhere who want to eat healthier options. For example, a graduate from our food venture initiative in 2022, I guess I'll plug her because that's in her name, Casey's Kitchen Plug, who has a food truck. She gave me her big secret, which is she wants people to eat healthier, but she doesn't tell them. And so the food is delicious, but they don't know that it's packed with vitamins and healthy vegetables because it just tastes good. I say, yes, you have to find your healthy food tribe, but at the same time, creative food vendors can also find ways to feed people healthy food. And as long as it's delicious, they're happy, they're willing to pay. And they're sometimes willing to pay more.
I think you bring up a really important distinction. It's healthy, but it's also delicious. And you're really painting a picture of why this space needs specialized support, all the unique challenges. For our listeners who are dreaming about their own food startup, or maybe they're already elbows deep in it and they're searching for capital, if we get practical, what are the funding sources that food entrepreneurs should explore? Everything from loans and grants and even equity investments.
Let me just quote one of our lending officers. He says, "Don't get hooked on the sugar, right? The sugar high of loans and grants. First, you need to put your sweat equity in there, your own skin in the game, and develop revenue." That's a great segue for now. What Eric has to say.
It is a great point. It is one thing I often will say is that lending or any financing is no replacement for sales, right? And I think one of the interesting thing for a lot of food ventures is that there are a lot of ways to start small with resources that may be a little bit easier to find and build that tribe, build up that community around what you're doing so that when you're ready to take a bigger jump, when you're ready to get to another stage in your planning, you can bring to the table all of these people who are already so into what you do and show that there is this support, and in the next stage I'm going to have that support too. When you are ready, LEDC provides funding for various levels. We have seed loans for very early entrepreneurs. These are loans under $5,000. We can really go as low as $500 just to provide a little bit of capital. If you're looking to get a farmer's market stand going, or if you're trying to do some cottage industry delivery catering or something like that. These are loans that are accessible and available to get those initial stages just launched and off the ground, and they go all the way on up to $250,000, or sometimes we can work with different partnerships to go even a little bit beyond that to help fuel growth and expansion of your second location or your third location. One of our programs, specifically for restaurants, has been with the really generous and gracious support of the Department of Health and Human Services. It's a program called the Community Economic Development Program, CED. It allows us to give 0% loans to growing businesses who are creating jobs, which kind of gets into another great social impact of food ventures, is that they're great motors for job creation. Part of a healthy community is also having a community who is employed and who are able to provide these resources for their families. So this program is really aimed at folks who are creating jobs. And so we're able to give those 0% loans. Typically, they're about $100,000 per loan. It's just been an incredible program. We've seen that on average, it costs about $7,500 in lending funds to create a job. It's often funding about a third of the startup costs. So there's like a 3-to-1 leverage from private capital to create these jobs and really make a positive impact in communities. There are, of course, different grants and partnerships that folks can look to. But like Jose said, nothing will replace sales.
That's definitely true. And that's a great breakdown. Also, I think it's a really good point that it's not just about healthy for the body, but also for the mind and the soul and the community, right? It's about our social health. It's about our environmental health. Healthy can mean a lot of things in addition to economic health.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I wanted to chat a little bit with you about some of the partnerships we have and how our incubator infrastructure fits in with some of those partnerships, and how we move from small business development technical assistance to launching a business to access to capital. For example, with our food venture incubator, we've had businesses that we help them with their business plan and all of their registration. Now, the obstacle often for them now at this stage is, well, how do I get a business license? Well, to get a catering license, you need access to a commercial kitchen. Some of our graduates from our initial food venture initiative and our food venture initiative in 2023 joined another partnership that we have with Martha's Table, where we have developed a community kitchen. It was an idea that LEDC presented to them, and they had access to a community kitchen, a commercial kitchen that was underutilized after the pandemic. And then we brought the food entrepreneurs. So they went from our food venture incubator into this community kitchen partnership. From working at this shared commercial kitchen, we had Los Quesos, a pupuseria, that was then able to sell at the farmers market at UDC and do events at their churches, catering events, and build their business. From there, then they were able to capitalize with their own revenue a food truck. So now they have a food truck, the only pupuseria food truck in Southeast DC. So what does that mean for the community? It means jobs. They have 6 people working there. It means food in areas that didn't have that kind of food. And it means employment and economic mobility for this family.
Another thing I just wanted to mention is the kind of world around investment. There is a lot of space for investment in food ventures because food ventures are potentially scalable. One thing I tell entrepreneurs that I work with is kind of figure out what those plans are. We see people who come to us and they're thinking about investment or they're talking about investment, but they're really thinking about running a location or they're running a store or a single farm, and the returns might not be super big. Those just don't typically end up being ventures that are as attractive for more traditional sources of equity investment. A lot of folks would be looking for bigger jumps in scalability. We've seen folks become acquired or get bigger investors when they're maybe working with co-packers. They've done their own thing, they've created their own recipes, and they found co-packers who can help them scale, or distributors like the Whole Foods and the supermarket chains who can help them to scale, and that's when things really take off from an investor point of view.
I totally agree with you. It's like you have to have the sales first. The best time to get an equity investment is when you don't need it. People give to success, and if you're already successful, then you get the funds. Unfortunately, maybe or fortunately, you don't need the funding at that point, and that's a good position to be in.
Yeah, and sometimes that there still leaves room in the capital stack for a blend where we're working through a deal now where someone has an investor who's supporting them, and they're looking to prevent dilution, right? They don't want to give up too much of the ownership of their company. So they're looking to bring on lending capital, but borrow a loan from us to be able to finance part of what they were planning without having to give up that much more equity. So there's ways to blend the two as well.
Right when we thought starting up was the hardest part, scaling is so complex. And just beyond finding this money to grow, what are the other big hurdles food businesses face as they try to scale? How do you advise them to balance maintaining quality and to expand, but do it responsibly and keep their mission and their impact intact?
I think, some of the things that we see often on the technical assistance side is often food entrepreneurs have a vision and a plan that they've written down, and more importantly, a dream that they've held on to. And so they want to ambitiously go after manifesting that dream. So for example, we have people who started in our incubator with this idea, and then we can move them, into this idea, from this idea to manifest this dream. But the idea might be like, I want to start a 5-star restaurant, which it is not an impossible idea. It just requires a lot more investment than they have available, and that they will be eligible for. So, for example, we had a client. She came to me with a huge vision of a 5-star Nigerian restaurant. But then we scaled it back a bit to start out with vegan finger food, idea that she can test her recipes and test the market at farmers markets and sell and make some money. And then on the side, she started to make hibiscus drinks. Turns out that her hibiscus drinks were more popular than everything else that she was doing. So then she developed it into a commercial package food product that now she sells in stores. And so the idea, the market indicated to her what was really needed. And she didn't need the capital necessary to start this 5-star restaurant right away. What the market wanted was her watermelon, pineapple, hibiscus drinks based on what the market needed. Now, it doesn't mean that other idea is out the window, but as she develops, as she accumulates revenue and develops savings, and it has experience, it can show the cash flow, she may be eligible now to get a loan to develop this other idea, taking it step by step. I would be remiss if I did not say that our partners at Capital Impact Partners and our Nourish DC partners helped invest in our food venture incubator, and that the Bainham Family Fund through Capital Impact Partners helped invest in our partnership with Martha's Tables Community Kitchen. Because when we talk about finance, we have to talk about also financing our work as a nonprofit.
That's such a great point about financing not just the small business, but financing our food ecosystem. So, as we look ahead, the healthy food space is constantly evolving, and what customers want, it's always shifting, and technology is changing the game. For the future, what do you see for your outlook on the funding of healthy food? And are there exciting trends that are coming down the road and maybe some innovative financing models that could be promising for healthy food businesses?
We have seen quite a lot more movement in the revenue-based financing models, and I think technology is definitely leading the way to being able to make things like that possible, particularly things like third-party integrations with banks, right? So that someone is able to kind of be able to see how the business is doing, monitor things, to be able to identify good months and bad months, and to be able for CDFIs and community lenders to be able to leverage that type of knowledge and understanding to reach out to folks and say, hey, how's everything going? Is there some way we can connect you to something or someone, or do you need support with a marketing strategy, or how can we help to unlock some things for you?
I think the transparency is a big advantage, and also the amount of data that can be used and analyzed to help optimize the business is really helpful.
Absolutely. There is a lot of space for technology to provide really critical improvements for food ventures and businesses in general, as well as in financing. But I think there's also just something so delightfully analog about food. This is a product that you are pulling from the ground and working with your hands to be able to provide from one person to another.
For sure. I mean, it's so sensory, it's so elemental. It's kind of interesting to think how technology can mediate that experience.
Yeah, at its essence, it is people connecting between breaking bread.
For those small businesses out there that are listening right now, maybe they feel a spark of inspiration, or maybe they're already struggling with this funding gap. How would they go about connecting with your incredible organization?
If you're interested in technical assistance, right, you can always reach out to me at Vargas, Vargas, at ledcmetro.org. I can also facilitate access to lending.
That was a powerful look at the work of LEDC, the Latino Economic Development Center, and how they're empowering small businesses to build a more resilient local economy. And that same spirit of community building is at the very heart of Dreaming Out Loud. Even as they continue to push forward on the build out and opening of their own neighborhood market, they've dedicated time and resources to launch the Dream Accelerator program for a new generation of food entrepreneurs. Let's check in on a session.
So my name is Danielle Vogel. I am a professor at American University. I teach at the Kogod School of Business. I'm also the assistant director of the Valoric Center for Entrepreneurship. Welcome to this delightful session of Dreaming Out Loud, where we're practicing our pitches.
So first things first, my name is Kenny Bridgers. I am an herbalist, a farmer. With the help of Danielle and some of our other supporters and guides, being a resident and working east of the river is definitely, comes with a sense of responsibility, especially as a steward of the land and someone who has a bit of knowledge around holistic healing. As a farmer and as an herbalist that makes added value healing products, I think is right in alignment with the marketplace that Dreaming Out Loud is opening up on Marionberry Avenue. Whether it's the food that we're growing or any of the herbs that we turn into added value, like remedies, tinctures, extracts, things of that nature, it kind of goes hand in hand. So to be able to have a direct relationship with them through this program, I think is key for access.
Hi, my name is Yemiya, and my business is called Vegans Eat Good Too. I'm looking forward to creating a product that can be in the Marionberry Market and other corner stores and markets that's local. Yeah, so this dream program is tough, and We have coaches that's very helpful and very knowledgeable. For example, my pitch, learning how to do a 3-minute pitch and really getting more detailed on what it is that you do. So incorporating more of why I'm doing what I'm doing and like the person I was before and the person I am now. I'm excited. I feel I'm in a great cohort and learnings.
So my name is Quanice Walters. I am the owner of Creative Ice Dessert Shop. We have Italian ice popsicles and icicles. I heard about the Dreaming Out Loud program from doing different events and markets with Dreaming Out Loud, and I was told that they had an upcoming class coming up, and I've been doing really great in here. The class has been very successful. I'm learning a lot.
This program, the Dreamers program, which is a program for emerging food entrepreneurs, primarily in Wards 7 and 8. I was just magnetically drawn to the concept of helping this cohort in particular prepare to achieve world domination. And so we had a series of conversations. They asked me to develop a 14-week curriculum for this program. And so what I'm bringing into the classroom is truly a business school level 14-week curriculum where we go over every element of the business model. We talk about everything from, legal issues to marketing to scaling to confidence building to resilience, etc. For those who are ready to sell in a venue like the Dreaming Out Loud Grocery, this is an unbelievable opportunity to get sort of fast track through that. And I cannot tell you how special the experience is of being someone's first yes. Right? So you get to say yes to their dream, and then they walk through the doors of your shop with their product in their arms, and they get to put it on the shelf. And now it's not just their friend saying this is delicious. Now it's a real business, right? And they get.
We've had a taste of food entrepreneurship, a world where passion meets practicality, and where a great idea is just the beginning of a very long and hard journey. We heard from Amir from South Block about the importance of a compelling brand story, the power of connecting with customers, and the plain old hard work it takes to bring a food vision to life. Behind every successful food brand is a person and a team with a dream and the courage to make it real. From Eric and Jose from the Latino Economic Development Center, we gained insights into the financial landscape that food entrepreneurs navigate. We learned about the critical importance of securing the right funding, the hurdles of scaling a business, and the resources available to help those small businesses thrive. We continue to follow Dreaming Out Loud. They show us how the entrepreneurial spirit can empower communities, address food deserts, and create lasting impact. The world of food entrepreneurship is dynamic, demanding, and full of both challenges and incredible opportunities. As we move forward in this series, we'll continue to explore the financial forces that shape our food system, keeping in mind the individuals and communities who are working to make healthy, sustainable food accessible to all. Thank you for joining me, Katie Chang and Eats Place, for Batch and Scale, the Healthy Food Financing Podcast. The Healthy Food Financing Podcast. Funding for this podcast was made possible by the Healthy Food Financing Initiative Partnership, funded through USDA and in partnership with Capital Impact Partners. I would also like to thank the government of the District of Columbia for their support of the Nourish DC program. We encourage you to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode, where we'll be exploring the power of food hubs and strengthening local food systems. You can check us out at eatsplace.com. Until next time, feed your hunger and keep thinking about where your food comes from and the financial journey it takes to get there.